Learn English through story. The Forbidden Seduction. In the sprawling city of Ashur, where towering stone temples cast long shadows over narrow streets, there lived a man named Darius. He was a figure of influence, a respected diplomat whose voice could sway the opinions of kings and councils alike. His life had been built on discipline and honor, qualities that had earned him the trust of his peers and the admiration of those he governed. Yet, despite the accolades, Darius was a man who harbored a secret longing, a desire that gnawed at the edges of his carefully maintained life. This desire had a name: Alara. Alara was the wife of Lord Theon, a nobleman with whom Darius had long worked. She was a woman of extraordinary beauty, with raven black hair that fell in soft waves down her back and eyes the color of storm clouds, so dark, mysterious, and captivating. She moved through the world with an elegance that turned heads, her presence commanding attention without effort. But it wasn't just her physical beauty that had ensnared Darius, it was her intellect, her sharp wit, the way she looked at him during meetings with a knowing gaze, as though she could see right through his guarded exterior. It had started innocently enough. Alara would linger after dinners, offering a smile that held just a hint of something more. Their conversations, at first polite, became increasingly personal. There were shared looks across crowded rooms, fleeting touches as they passed in narrow corridors. Each interaction, though subtle, left Darius wanting more. He could feel the walls of propriety closing in, the weight of temptation growing heavier with each passing day. He knew the rules, the boundaries that governed his world. Alara was married, off limits in every sense. But desire, as he had learned, was a force that cared little for rules. One night, after a formal banquet held in Lord Theon's grand estate, Darius found himself alone in the courtyard. The festivities still echoed inside the halls, but he needed air, needed to clear his mind from the cloud of desire that had been swirling ever since he laid eyes on Alara. As he stood under the silver light of the moon, he heard soft footsteps behind him. "Darius," a voice called softly. It was Alara. He turned, his heart racing despite himself. She was standing just a few feet away, her face illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns. Her dress, made of dark silk, shimmered in the light, and her eyes held his in an unspoken invitation. "You left the party early," she said, her tone light but her eyes heavy with meaning. "I needed some air," he replied, his voice tighter than he intended. The room was stifling. Alara stepped closer, her gaze never wavering from his. "I know what it is that suffocates you, Darius. It's the same thing that haunts me." Darius felt a chill race down his spine, though the night was warm. His mind screamed at him to turn away, to walk back into the hall and put this behind him, but his feet remained rooted to the ground. "You can't say things like that," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "And why not?" Alara asked, her tone challenging. "Because it's forbidden, because we're supposed to live by rules that were written long before we even knew each other." "Alara, you're married," he said, though it was a weak protest, and he knew it. "I have worked with your husband for years, he trusts me." "Does he trust me?" she asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Does he even see me anymore? Or am I just another ornament in his life, something to be displayed when it suits him, forgotten when it doesn't?" Darius had no answer. He had watched Lord Theon over the years, a cold, distant, and more interested in his wealth and power than in the woman at his side. It was no secret that their marriage was one of convenience, a union of noble houses rather than hearts. But still, it was a marriage. It was a vow. Alara stepped even closer, her body now just inches from his. He could smell the faint scent of jasmine in her hair, feel the warmth of her presence. His heart pounded in his chest, and every rational thought seemed to slip away, lost in the intoxicating pull of her. "I see you, Darius," she whispered. "I see the man behind the diplomat, the man who dreams of something more, something real. You've felt it too, haven't you?" He wanted to deny it, to tell her she was wrong, but the words wouldn't come. The truth, the undeniable truth, was that he had felt Ida. Every glance, every brush of her hand had stirred something in him that he had long tried to suppress. And now, here she was, offering him what he had secretly longed for, yet feared to take. "This is dangerous," he said, his voice hoarse. "Life is dangerous," she countered, her lips curving into a seductive smile. "But living without desire, without passion, that is the greatest danger of all." For a moment, the world seemed to hang in the balance. The choice before him was clear: to give into the forbidden, to take what his heart and body craved, or to walk away, to return to the safety of his ordered life, empty but untainted. The weight of that decision pressed down on him, suffocating and exhilarating all at once. And then, before he could stop himself, he closed the distance between them. His lips met hers, and in that instant, the world fell away. All the years of restraint, of duty, of denial melted in the heat of that kiss. It was as though he had been starving, and she was the first taste of life he had known in years. The intensity of it consumed him, pulling him into a whirlpool of desire that he could no longer resist. But as their kiss deepened, a sound broke through the haze of passion, the sound of a door opening behind them. Darius pulled away, his heart pounding in panic, and turned to see Lord Theon standing at the entrance to the courtyard. His face was a mask of cold fury. For a long moment, no one spoke. The air between them was thick with tension, and Darius felt the full weight of his betrayal crash down upon him. He had crossed the line, broken the unspoken code of honor that had governed his life. And now, there was no going back. "Theona," Darius began, but Lord Theon raised a hand to silence him. "Not another word," Theon said, his voice icy. "I trusted you, Darius. I invited you into my home, into my life. And this is how you repay me?" Darius swallowed hard, guilt and shame swirling inside him. "It wasn't meant to happen." "Yeah, save your excuses," Theon spat. "I don't want to hear them." Alara stepped forward, her voice calm but defiant. "This isn't Darius's fault. It was my choice, my decision." Theon turned to her, his eyes blazing. "Your choice? To betray me? To shame me in front of my peers? In front of this entire city?" Alara lifted her chin, meeting his gaze without flinching. "You never cared about me, Theon." "Not really. I was nothing more than a tool for you, a way to secure alliances and gain more power. But I am more than that. I deserve more than that." Theon's face twisted in rage, but before he could respond, Darius spoke. "Theon, she's right. You've neglected her for years. This is not just about us. It's about what happens when people are treated as pawns instead of human beings." Theon's eyes narrowed. "And what are you, a saint come to save her from her miserable life?" "Don't pretend this was anything more than lust, Darius. Don't delude yourself into thinking you were rescuing anyone." Darius felt the sting of the accusation, knowing there was truth in Theon's words. He had been seduced not just by Alara, but by the idea of being someone's savior, by the thrill of forbidden desire. He had allowed himself to believe that this was something noble, when in reality, it was a selfish act, born of his own unmet needs and desires. Silence hung heavy in the air as Theon stared at them both, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. Finally, he spoke, his voice cold and final. "Leave my house," he said. both of you, and do not think for a moment that this will not have consequences." With that, he turned and disappeared back into the mansion, leaving Darius and Alara standing alone in the courtyard, their forbidden desire now laid bare for all to see. In the days that followed, Darius found himself cast out from the circles of influence he had once navigated so easily. The whispers of scandal followed him wherever he went, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. Lord Theon had made sure that Darius would never again be trusted in the halls of power. As for Alara, she too was shunned, her marriage to Theon effectively over. But unlike Darius, she seemed almost relieved, free from the gilded cage in which she had been trapped for so long. She left Ashur not long after, her fate unknown. Darius was left to reflect on the choices he had made, on the seductive pull of desire and the price that came with it. He had learned, too late, that not all desires are meant to be fulfilled, that some boundaries exist, for a reason. In seeking to satisfy his own cravings, he had destroyed not only his own life, but the lives of those around him. Desire, when unchecked, can lead us down a path of destruction. The thrill of the forbidden may be tempting, but it often comes at a price far greater than we are prepared to pay. True wisdom lies in knowing when to resist temptation, in understanding that not all desires are worth pursuing. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.